Alright guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay Will. So I've got two devices here up on the screen. This is one of those tech spec type of videos to kind of figure out why a person would purchase one phone over the other if one has better specs. So let's kind of weigh out these options here for these two particular devices. We've got the LG V30 on the left and you've got the Google Pixel XL2 on the right. So both of these phones retail for about $800 or more. The Google Pixel 2 is $850 to start and goes up to $950 for the 128 gig model, and then the LG V30 is $800. So they both start the LG already. The LG V30 wins in price. The V30 is $800 for a 64 gig with an SD card slot, and then the Google Pixel is $850 for a 64 gig or $950 for a 128 gig. They don't have an SD card slot, no expandable memory. So just looking at these guys, the screens are the exact same size. They're 6-inch and they're both OLED displays. And you know, the screen size is going to be important to a lot of people with these new design 18:9 ratio devices. And both of these phones have them. So that's a kind of a wash right there, because they both have a OLED display and they both have Corning Gorilla Glass 5, and they're both 6 inches. And they're both 18:9, 1440 by 2880. So this is a huge plus. So if we look at something different like the cameras here, the Google Pixel actually has a 12 megapixel camera, which is rated extremely high on DxOMark. And the V30 has a 16 megapixel camera. Now, the dilemma I have with this is that most of the cases that I've experienced, in most cases that I've experienced with LG phones, their rear cameras are phenomenal. And it's one of those underdog things, you get overlooked. So in this situation right here, honestly, I think the V30 is probably going to have a better camera than the Google Pixel XL2, because currently right now the V20 is fantastic, the V10 is fantastic, the G6 has a great rear camera. I think looking at both of these, I think the V30, now I won't know until I get some hands-on time with either one of these, but I bet the V30 is probably going to have a much better camera than the Google Pixel XL2. And that's just my thoughts on that. Not because it has a higher megapixel count, it's because of the quality that the rear cameras that LG has been putting out. I mean, those cameras are phenomenal on most of their devices. So that's my take on that. I think the LG V30 probably is going to have a better camera. Now, when you look at front cameras, obviously, the Google Pixel has the better camera. Most of LG's cameras on the front are not very good, so that's an easy one, that the Google Pixel will take that one. But here we look at processing power. They have the exact same thing, 4 gigs of RAM, Snapdragon 835. Now the Google Pixel has a 3520 milliamp hour battery, and the V30 has a 3300 milliamp hour battery. But I don't foresee us seeing any bad reviews on battery life for either one of these. And again, here we look deeply at this and we see that the V30 is actually clocked a little bit higher. Now, while as far as the clock speed on the 835 is clocked at 2.45, and the Pixel is clocked at 2.35, so you probably won't see any difference there, but it is there. So let's look at down the list here. If you're looking at Corning Gorilla Glass 3, they both have always on display. The Google Pixel obviously is running the latest Android operating system, and the V30 is running the Nougat operating system. So update. So, but the displays may be the same, but if you look here, LG has the Dolby Vision and HDR10 compliance, and we all know that those are beautiful when you see them on a screen. That is just gorgeous. Now, the V30 does have a 128 gig model, but it's exclusive to Sprint or like the overseas model. So it's called the V30 Plus, and that's the end of that. If you look at camera aperture here, not only does it have a bigger megapixel, a larger megapixel, but it also has a 1.6 aperture, so it's gonna let in more light. I mean, you just kind of look at this yourself, and then it also has that wide-angle camera, a 13 megapixel wide-angle camera. Now, Google is saying that they can pretty much accomplish all these things without having two cameras. I don't know if I'm buying into that at this point. I mean, because having that extra wide-angle lens is actually pretty decent, so a place where the Google Pixel might win, or it depends. I've seen some phones that have a single bottom firing speaker. They're actually pretty loud, but technically on paper, the Google Pixel will win for speakers, because it has two of them. and the V30 just has the 1. Now, as far as audio goes, there's no 3.5mm headphone jack, but there is one on the V30, and you also get 32-bit audio and B&O certified. That's a huge win. That's a huge win. But with the Pixel, you get an adapter to get your audio in, or you're going to have to use the Type-C. Now, they both have 5.0 for Bluetooth, and that's the norm. They both have Type-C 3.1. They both have fast charging, but as you can see here, the LG gives you 50% in 36 minutes. They've claimed on GSM Arena. So it's kind of strange that the reputation plays a part when you're looking at devices, because Google doesn't have the best reputation for their Pixel phones, because they really failed at the first attempt for doing the Pixel devices. Now, what I will say is the Google Pixel 2 XL is going to do very well. The problem with the V30 is that the pricing on some of their phones dropped immediately after launch, and that's deterring some people. It's deterring me, because I feel like I'd hate to buy it. I'm not saying it's not worth $800. Another thing with the Google Pixel XL2 is, I'm pretty sure it's IP67, and the V30 is IP68 with the 810G standing for military drops. So you get a high rating on the V30 in that aspect. You also get a much more lightweight device. It's 158 grams opposed to the 175 on the Pixel XL2. And so you think about this now, it's offering an SD card slot, it's got a higher rating, it's got Dolby HDR, it's got Dolby Vision and HDR compliance, it's got a headphone jack, it's clocked a little bit higher. I mean, SD card, lower aperture on the camera, you know, there's some things there. It's got higher bitrate audio. There's a lot of things here that make the V30 a better purchase. It costs less already. So even if you're just looking at that, the V30 costs less. So why would a person not want to pick up the V30 over the Pixel 2? You could argue, Android enthusiasts will argue all day that the software will never get an update on the V30. You're getting they'll argue and say that the people who buy Google Pixels only do it for the upgrades, for the software updates. That's not true. The Pixels are in Verizon stores, and regular consumers have access to it, and I don't think they even know pretty much about the operating systems until someone tells them. So I would say that you know, the V30 is probably the smarter choice. And if you're patient enough, we could wait it out and see if LG will drop those prices down. That's probably going to be the better buy. Even as it stands right now, it's technically the better purchase the way I see it, because you're getting a heck of a lot more and you're paying less. So if we take aside all the things that we feel about LG and take emotion out, because that's really what it's about when it comes to LG phones, we don't want to pay a lot of money for something and then 2 weeks later or a month later the price is permanently dropped. That's a big deterrent for a lot of people who are paying attention. Some people aren't paying attention. Some consumers don't even know. Most consumers don't know. They bought it at the $650 for the LG G6. They didn't go back and look again at the price again. They just kept it moving, you know. But in the tech community, we monitor all these things, and it's unfortunate that LG has, and it's only happened with one generation, which was the actual G6. It happened really fast with the G6. It didn't happen really fast with the V20, but the G6, it happened really fast, and so it's kind of tainted a lot of us, our images, our views on LG for possibly dropping, because Motorola did the same thing. They've dropped at $750. Now it's already down to $500. Prices are dropping like that quickly for a reason, and consumers can't get money back once you buy it at the higher price if you're past your 2-week period. So taking all that emotion out of it, the V30 is technically the better purchase, I would say. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. You're getting more with the V30 and paying less. Why would you buy the Pixel XL over the V30? It's your man Jay Will. See you in the next video. Take care.